it was a correction I think we needed, just to look at your business again, look at what we're doing right, look at what we can live with and can live without. And I think it's been one of those things, you've got to look at it optimistically.
Today on Dirty Linen, we are speaking to Christo Christophidis. He has his finger in a few different pies. Christo owns Ripponlea Food Wine in my neck of the woods in Melbourne. He's also a Glen Waverley trader, so has businesses in Glen Waverley and is you're the head of the Glen Waverley Traders Association. I've probably got that name wrong. But you're the man. You're the man in Glen Waverley. So Christo, your phone never stops ringing. So I'm glad to have a moment to slot into your busy diary. Thank you so much for coming and having a chat to Dirty Linen today.
Absolute pleasure, Dani. Absolute pleasure.
So, it's been an interesting year for you. And I remember in January, you were in touch with me about coronavirus and about COVID, the way that it had struck Glen Waverley before perhaps it had struck many other parts of Melbourne. And that's because it's such a big Chinese community. So, I mean, it's in October now. That was January. I remember talking to you on the phone. I think I was driving down to Gippsland to do a bushfire recovery story. I actually I can picture it. I can picture the road. I was coming up to a railway crossing, and we were just talking about empty restaurants in Glen Waverley. And it wasn't long before that I wrote what ended up being, among the first dozen or so of my restaurant reviews before there were no restaurants to review. And it was a restaurant in that neck of the woods, a Shanxi style. So a restaurant doing a particular Chinese regional cuisine. And I was absolutely in love with it. Those fat wheat noodles and broken bread in broth. And I just love food, and I love the people you get to meet through food. I love writing about food. I just learn something every day, and Melbourne is such a good place to do that. And to think of empty restaurants in any part of Melbourne, it's not something that you thought we were coming upon, but you were really there at the start of it. So yeah, this is my long way of asking, how's your year been?
Yeah, well, look, just to sort of follow up on that coronavirus type wave that began a little bit earlier. It was the sort of undercurrent that was brewing in Melbourne, and Glen Waverley seemed to be hit first, and then Chinatown, of course, Box Hill, and some other sort of Chinese areas that had restaurants. They were the ones that got hit first because they were coming back from China on the New Year. January to February, their Lunar New Year. It was quite already instilled in their social distancing and all their sort of behaviours. So they were sort of, they came to Melbourne with masks, and we were wondering what's going on. And this was in January. This is Australia Day weekend, and we're thinking, what's going on? And it was quite funny, and we were actually mocking some of them, like, why are you so? There's nothing to worry about. It's like the flu symptoms. Anyway, we've learned a lot since. But unfortunately, we didn't know. And then, of course, come March, 2 months later, so it did hit us quite early. And we're really concerned about, not only just empty restaurants, it's the fear. And it's so ingrained in our culture here in Melbourne that we are, you go across a lot of parts of the world, and, in Melbourne, you talk about what's Melbourne like. Well, we're so multicultural, and we're so rich with restaurants and going out for breakfast, and it becomes your habitual, sort of religion, so to speak, and it becomes just way of life. And without having that, it's a big part of our lives, and that's why it's so sad, not only for us operators, because we're the ones hurting, yes, and there's others that are sick and probably dying, and at the same time, there are other industries that are suffering as well. That's tourism as well as hospitality and some other industries. But we're chugging along okay. The government's been okay with a few things, but it's just that community fear, and it's just bringing back that confidence. And I think we've lost a little bit of confidence here in Melbourne with our government, but at the same time, moving forward, we've just got to sort of take it as it comes and try and adapt. Unfortunately, some businesses can adapt more than others, and that's why it's sort of it's hard for some and easier for others. So it's been very, very tough emotionally as well as financially. So it's one of those things. It's like a hiatus. It's like like a little break from the norm of push, push, push. Now it's like survival. And then,
Yeah.
moving forward, it's like, okay, how can I still run my business? And we're talking now as an owner of a business, how can we run our businesses a lot finer? And we've learnt so much. Um, Myself and my business partner, particularly my business partner, we've just risen to the occasion, and and she's inspiring me. And Lisa Slaughter, who is a Glen Waverley girl, that's why we started out there 20 years ago. We've seen a lot ups and downs, and it's been like a good opportunity now to reassess your business. And what have I been doing in my business? What am I doing? Let's look at ourselves and start getting back into it and bringing back that passion and love, because unfortunately the distraction's been, we're closed, we can't operate. Yes, some can to some capacity, and the parameters have changed. It's all takeaway at the moment. And then we're moving forward to look, okay, we can come out of this stronger and a little bit more understanding of your business down to the grain. And then moving forward, hopefully it becomes a little bit more profitable, because that's what we're in business for. It's a passion becomes the bloodline of our existence. And then obviously you have to make some sort of profitability to keep running and sustain a living from it. So that's the intention. So I think I'm going to come out of this, as well as some others will, a lot wiser.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's
So
funny, like hearing you talk, it's like I feel like I'm on the roller coaster with you, because there's so much. I mean, I can sort of sense the bewilderment that's struck at, at certain times along the way, but also
mm,
the passion that's sort of brought you back on track, and the innovation where and the teamwork. How can we inspire
mm,
each other? How can we look after each other? Um, and what are we left with
absolutely.
at the end of it? And I think what I also feel like I can hear in your voice is a questioning of the purpose of what you're doing in the first place, like the fact that you go into a business for one reason, and then it sort of leads you down a whole bunch of different tracks,
It
and then you've
does,
had this
Danny. That's so
opportunity
true.
to question it, to ask
Yeah.
yourself, what are the
Why am
first
I doing it?
principles? So maybe let's
Exactly.
start there, Christo. Like
Absolutely.
how
And
have you been able to answer that for yourself?
yeah, and that's actually been a question this week. It's funnily enough that you ask, "Oh, can you have a bit of a chat on your podcast?" And I'm actually quite honoured to explain some of the ins and outs of behind the scenes of what I'm going through. But myself and my business partner were saying we need to be realigned, because what happens is, organically, things just grow. When you open a business, the energy that's in there, you're in that store a lot of hours, and you resonate that value that you put into it, in the sense of how you go about things, and teaching the younger ones below you or with you, taking on that beautiful ride of a business growth. And for 20 years, we've had a lot of ups and downs, but majority of the time it's been, solid and positive. And some things just you take for granted because things are going well. There's good money in the till, and you've got some good, you're always feeling great because you're the center of attention. It's your business, and you see a lot of people in your store and outside enjoying your product, and loving the customer interaction. And it's been an amazing sort of feeling. But at the same time, you think, okay, now I'm earning a living from this. All of a sudden, you've got to put some new hats on to, put aside that passion and start putting on that business hat, saying, am I, what are we doing here? We're losing money here, or you can actually do this better. And all of a sudden, you get distracted. And then, obviously, lately with the COVID challenges we've all had, you're sort of thinking, oh bloody hell, like the business has been crippled. Is this really worth it? And where we've sort of stopped and thought, okay, let's bring back our identity, because our identity is so important to come out of COVID, or at least when we're allowed to reopen, bring back that love, and that'll resonate with our team, and then they'll sort of hopefully build that trust again with our customer, and that community confidence, and then that will then hopefully open the doors to, obviously more business and more trade, and then you can get back onto the running of your business that I so relied on for many years. You earn an
Mm,
income from profit. Some of us pay yourself a wage while you're working. At the same time, profit is the extra money that you can make. But at the end of the day, we are running businesses, so unfortunately, it's becoming more and more of a business that you have to sort of keep a hat on, as opposed to the passion hat. and your passion needs to
Mm.
be, now divided into other sort of aspects such as HR or some legal stuff, or the council, or there's liquor licensing, and then there's other challenges that takes away that love, and all of a sudden you become spiteful, or you start hating the industry. You see so many times where people just feel like they get burnt out, and it's just stopping and taking a breather, let things just come to you, and then realign. Okay, why am I doing this? Let's The business is you, really. So if you don't realign yourself, your business won't reflect that, and that's where I feel like this is the time I'm going to do it, and I'm going to come out of this as another sort of back to the old Christo, how many years ago was quite an obvious sort of aspect of my business. Now it's sort of lost its identity due to the COVID distractions. So that's where it's sort of coming back to that passion to go back in and to
So
relive
it
it.
is it about what is it that you bring to it? What is the who is that Christo that you can rebuild this business on?
Well, that's a bloody good question, because I've forgotten over all these years. Sometimes I know what I'm good at, and that's I'm a servant to people, and really I want to make people happy. So how do we do that? Well, it's not only your staff and your suppliers, but it's the most important thing is my customers, and as long as that's making me, that makes me happy. So where it comes down back to for Christo is, okay, I'm going to really re-look at what's bringing that fire, what's keeping that fire going, and that's where I love teaching, and I love, showing the road to these young kids that work for us, and also showing the road to our customers, how amazing, you know, we are as a business, or how I am as a person. So it becomes so personal that it's a child that I want to bring, up again, like I did many years
Mm.
ago. So it's like it's very hard to explain. Some can articulate it better, but I feel like I've just got to not only get back in and do the hours, but also what I've got to do is really just explain it more, because I don't have the ability to be there all the time. I got a family, and I want to be home, with kids. So it's like realigning
Yeah.
the business so those values are still there, and that sort of X factor of what makes us, or what makes me resonates in that business, and that's what I started it in the first place. So I want to
Mm.
reignite that, and that what I did was it was the passion of my coffee, making sure that's great, the passion of my food, and the passion of the venue that people just want to be at, and they make them happy, and it's a distraction for
Yeah.
people's lives, and make it a nice, happy place for everyone to come back to. So I think that's what sort of is the key. I think in a lot of businesses,
Yeah.
to
Well, it's
gain that
interesting because
trust.
you're using a lot of sort of fire metaphors, and it's like
Yeah.
there's
Yes.
that fire that sort of propels you into business, and that lights your way through it, and
Mm.
then there's this pandemic that's just a bit of a dampener, really, putting
It
that
is.
fire out or threatening to. But also, I feel like it can also, and I know it has, there's been aspects of your business that have really ignited through this, like you've started
Yes.
new business streams. And
Yeah, it
so
is. It
it's
opens
a
new
it's a really
opportunities. Yes.
interesting, yeah,
It
like
has been.
it's
It's
never
been.
just one thing, is it?
It's not, and that's the thing. Like I said earlier, about some businesses can adapt a little bit easier than others. Some have motored through this and not having to change too much, and some just had no choice. And we thought, okay, if we stick to just being closed, that's one option, and that's quite an easy option. And it's just about, this is an opportunity to get in front. The government's actually helped us a lot by giving us a JobKeeper opportunity to offset some of the costs to do business, which is labour, which has been a huge part of our industry, and that's helping us to be able to at least try and combat those fixed costs. When you look, that's the business hat we've got to talk about. It's you got to make sure that you can balance the books, and understanding how to do that, and then creating a product that's going to sort of combat that, and then of course creating a product that people may not be used to in your brand or your business. So it's about being intuitive enough to be able to come up with something that's going to sort of still resonate with your customers, and the loyal customers that have been coming in for years, to sort of say, okay, I'm going to give it a go, and give them a support, and if they like it, they'll come back, and they have. And take away, take home, cook at home meals, sort of 80% done, and all it needs is a reheat, or a recook. has been quite a big opening for a lot of businesses, and you see it with the online providor giving a lot of businesses the opportunity to sell and to market themselves further. So we've done that on a smaller scale, and it's been really positive, and it gives us that sense of achievement too, and it shows that we keep going and keep swimming, and it's been quite a
Mm.
rewarding sense of achievement and accomplishment. And and that's not just us or me, it's obviously my business partner drives that a lot too, and she's the one that can be commended for a lot of those changes. But also, and then the staff sort of move on with that and take it to that next level of helping us achieve that. So it's been a great opportunity, and I think that's what's going to open the door to new aspects of hospitality moving forward. It may not be the only thing, but it's going to be another revenue stream for us to look at, and that's the change. And unfortunately, like you said, the dampener has been COVID for the whole world, and in some aspects, some areas more than others. But it's a correction sometimes. I think we need it. I'm not saying to the point where health, we needed people to die, but it was a correction I think we needed, just to look at your business again, look at what we're doing right, look at what we can live with and can live without. And I think it's been one of those things you got to look at it optimistically rather than a pessimist way of saying, oh yeah, it's all we can do, so that's all we're going to do. But like it opens the door,
Mm.
and it really gives you the opportunity to say, hey, like it is hospitality still. You're still entertaining people, but they're doing it at home, and they're going to come back out again. We're all going to get out. You can see we're all itching, but it's just it's still food. It's still pleasing someone at home, but just in an indirect way, and it's amazing. And you see it through
Yeah.
now. It's become really an online review uh, sort of reward rather than the immediate, hey, and they see you and they look at you and say thank you and shake your hand and pay at the register. It's quite a different sort of ball game, but it's the same principles, and the principles are great food, good product and entertaining, and that's what it's about, I think.
You've got you've got businesses in quite different parts of Melbourne, and I think that
Yes.
a lot of yeah, it's a lot of people don't have the opportunity to witness different neighbourhoods. Your neighbourhoods
Yeah.
are more than
Yeah,
five
you're right.
kilometres apart, so I haven't
Yeah.
had the
Yeah.
opportunity to see what's happening in Glen Waverley.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, tell me, and the restaurants are quite different. So perhaps just give us a little rundown on the different neighbourhoods and the different businesses that you have in them.
Okay, in Glen Waverley, being a deep suburban hub outside of Melbourne, it had some extreme growth the last probably 15 years. A lot of heads of national and international companies went out and moved out and had factories out towards Notting Hill, Wheelers Hill, Glen Waverley, in the hub there, business district hub, created a demand to open some hotels out there, and the Novotel Hotel with a cinema complex near the Glen became a sort of mini city, and it attracted my business partner to open a store out there, and we were looking all around Melbourne, and we thought, okay, let's open that city venue in the suburbs, and we just offered great coffee, good breakfast. We did it early, so we were one of the first of the market out there, and it was and we hadn't looked back since, and it was it was really it really resonated with all the locals there, and they loved it. And that's a breakfast, lunch, dinner venue that the model worked and suited well back then um, for a 7-day operation. And a big restaurant corner, we sort of adapted it to be a little bit more seats around the corner of the venue. So it's like 80 seats outside and about 50 seats inside. Very simple setup, but quite warm and venue to, you sort of see it and you go, oh, I want to sit there. So it's got that sort of comfort to those looking from outside in. Ripponlea, being a sort of a more inner suburban suburb, where I grew up in, is right along the train line, the Sandringham train line at Ripponlea train station. It's a beautiful corner building that we opened up about 6 years ago and have redeveloped it into a beautiful night venue, being a restaurant with some cozy green booths. It's sort of that great, warm, comforting feeling. Good, simple, sort of European, French, Italian sort of influenced menu, little menu with great wine and cocktail list, and the locals have warmed to it beautifully. And we have a very loyal local clientele there, as opposed to Glen Waverley, which is very family oriented, big demographic of young, middle aged, and elderly, and corporate coming in. So, in a highly competitive area of Glen Waverley, there's a lot of Chinese restaurants and other cafes. Um, we've seen a lot of new businesses come into the area, into the market. That's really competitive to us. So, it has lost its edge in the sense of being a leader. Now we're one of many
Mm-hmm.
restaurants out there, whereas Ripponlea, where we have the esteemed Attica restaurant that has an international following, which is just up the street, which is we're quite proud to say we're right near. So and there's some beautiful artisan bakers, a bakery, and some beautiful stores in that strip that really make it a gorgeous, cute, hidden suburb that many people love to find. So quite dynamically different to Glen Waverley, in the sense of just the type of clients that come in, so quite
Mm.
different. So it's quite a challenge to have two different running menus, one running breakfast, lunch, and virtually dinner 7 days. The other one's down to 4 nights of dinner only. So it's quite opposite. So it's hard to to,
Have you
to
felt that
really
your
see. Sorry.
have you felt
Yep.
that your customers have wanted different things from you emotionally during this period?
Um, That's a really good question. During this period, I've noticed that people have wanted to, yeah, they grab you more now, because I just think the ones that are coming to visit us are getting out and appreciating the fact that they're out, and it's a little outlet for them. So they just want that extra minute or two of attention, which is quite quite different to having a buzzing business where you've got several people to say hello to, or just you remember all their names and saying
Mm.
hello. Now it's more like you're actually quite concerned, because some of them have been affected by COVID, or mentally affected, or they've been sick, or we've got
Mm.
so many nurses working in the area that come into Glen Waverley particularly. I see them every day, and they just come in and get their coffee, and that's their outlet. And you do tend to forget that because we've got coffee on tap any time of the day, we sort of take it for granted. But going out for your coffee it's an event. You actually plan to go. I was going to go out and get my coffee. It's part of your DNA. So they go out, and it's for them to go out and actually be noticed, and and have that engagement is huge. And it's actually been a lot more obvious now, because people just want to stand and talk and have that opportunity just to vent or talk, and getting away from the dull blanket, I should say, that cloud above them, which has been the COVID life. So it has taken a
Yeah.
lot more out of me lately, because I am sort of more that personable business owner that's in the business, and I'm sort of the face. So you got to take it on the chin, and sort of and go with it. So it has been more lately, definitely. Good question.
Wha- And yeah, I think that that engagement, and I think even just this something as a physical barrier like wearing a mask, I think makes every interaction just that little bit more draining. Even as much as you want to
Yeah,
have it, you want to talk to someone. I think it's
yeah.
harder for us to speak and be understood. And I think it just does take a little bit more energy to just even to listen to somebody.
Yeah, you can't hear them. That's right. So you actually got to, you can't social distance. You got to be a bit closer. You can hear them. So it's sometimes, yeah, you're right. And it takes that little bit extra of energy out of you it's not actually out of you. You just spend that energy. It's not a negative, like in the sense it's taking me out, they drain you. It's like you got to
No.
spend that extra energy just to sort of concentrate and listen, and then give them that time, because I think that's where we're giving back. The rewards of having loyalty comes at a cost and a price, and sometimes it's just my time, and that's where it's got to, and
Yep.
that's where I feel like I've got to like give it back, and I do that a lot, and I feel like I don't accomplish a lot when I've got to work on my business, and I've got to sort of know and put that hat on, and today is just go and have fun with the customers, and do it, and don't sort of commit to doing anything other than just that. So it's really important to give
Mm.
that back, and you got to reward your loyalty back, by just giving them the attention, and it's huge. It's what hospitality is all about. 100%.
Well, I think it's also when you're leading a team, I mean, it must be so
Yeah,
important.
absolutely.
Well, I'm sure the team would get so much from seeing you, like, honour
You're
that
right.
moment with the customers as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, and I think that's been one of our key values. Myself and my business partner Lisa's key values are just monkey see, monkey do, and at the end of the day, if we show that we're putting time into invest invest our time into our customers and also our staff, it comes back in twofold, and people, and it just resonates in a happy place, and it does show they are quite proud of us, and always want to be known as a proud person to be working for, rather than someone that, it's a learning that I'll never work for someone like that again, and I don't want that over on my name, and it's really important because it's a small world and it's a small industry, even smaller industry, and your name does travel far, as opposed to the gossip that can go out. You
Yeah.
don't should never work for that person again, or oh my god, they roll their eyes to their customers when they're saying how's your day, and the staff members bagging you. It's not a good look. So it's important that the values on giving that time resonates with them, and shows. It's great, really.
Mm. So, you talked about this as an opportunity to really dig into the detail of your business and see if there are
Yeah.
things that you could do differently. And
Yes.
we know that
Yep.
the margins in hospitality weren't amazing before all this.
Mm,
Now, there's a
correct.
lot of pegging back to do, and if people are operating at reduced numbers, it's going to be really easy to break even with in a JobKeeper landscape. And we all know that that's
Correct.
not going to last forever. What are some
Yep.
of the specific things that you have noticed that you can do differently?
Um, well, what we can do differently is manage the business a lot lighter. So not holding on to so many extra costs that, yeah, I've just realised that I was taking on that you don't really need. Some basic fixed costs. I think I was just me personally. I think I was just taking for granted the business can perpetually moving forward, and not thinking that it had all these bricks in the boot. Think of it of a car had all these bricks in the boot, and you think, oh my god, if I took away some of these bricks, I can still operate this business moving forward a lot lighter, so and more efficiently, won't chew up as much petrol, which is your profit, and that's probably why I think maybe it was the correction that some of us needed, that we can move forward, and knowing that I can sort of run my business maybe with less staff, because we decided to maybe do a lot more online purchases on our QR coding with, say, on your phone when they come to the store. We can even look at doing less items on my menu instead of carrying such a big load on my menu. It can be a smarter menu in the sense of less stock to carry, which means less money to spend on extra stock, less staff to carry. I don't even need to run my business with the privilege of having a spare third person, second or third person. We can do it. We've noticed that we can run our business so leanly that, it'll be a privilege to have an extra person rather than just the expectation. So there's a lot of things moving forward that sort of made me realize, hey, I can do this without all this extra noise or extra weight to carry. And I think that's a good thing, and that will relate to better margins moving forward. And don't forget, a lot of people were doing very well prior to COVID, and some of us weren't doing as great. And this is why I think we can do greater now coming out of it based on those learnings.
So you've got businesses that are operating at quite different positions in the market. And I
Yes,
mean, do you see that there's going to be a type of business that does better on the other side of this?
that's a great question. Yeah, look, unfortunately, it's the margins are better when you're selling alcohol. So those type of businesses always did well with alcohol
Mm.
and food. But that doesn't mean that those lighter businesses, in the sense lighter, what I mean by that is, they're sort of cafe style, breakfast all day, can run very well and efficiently, and you know quite profitable moving forward. It's a different landscape moving forward in the sense of, is there a takeaway option? are people still going to be going out, and how can you accommodate that? It's the middle to large size businesses that will probably struggle because they may not fill as many seats, so that's where I feel like if you're a big venue, will that, I don't know, will it be sustainable moving forward because of the couple years that people may take to come back into the community as freely as they did pre-COVID? I don't know. So I think those small businesses such as those cafes will still do very well, um, so long as they've made some changes moving forward to help them sort of lighten the load. But most likely those businesses that, are in the suited area, it depends on your suburb. Some suburbs are
Mm.
suited for corporate, beverages and lots of alcohol, and some are, country Victoria might be great for those breakfasts, and they just smash it on the, on weekends. They're great. They could be, and they continue moving forward that way. So it does depend on your demographic and which area you're in. But I just feel like the business model, like going back to what type of business would work well, those business models to sustain breakfast, lunch, dinner are probably have gone now. They're out the window. That you don't never see those businesses that are, solely all an old sort of type business where they do breakfast, lunch, dinner 7 days. I think that's gone now. It's all about more segregated business types, such as breakfast only, and you go there only for breakfast. You're not going to go there for dinner. You go to that steak shop that's open for dinner. That's great. That's what you go for. You go to that Mexican store that's open for, for dinner as well, or you'll go for that venue that's great for lunch and afternoon drinks. So they specifically cater for that type of sort of genre in the market, and I think that's sort of the openings now that us type of hospitality people can't sustain, having open so many hours of the day, or, so.
Right. But don't you
mm,
have one of those businesses in Glen
that's right. Yeah,
Waverley?
absolutely.
So what are you going to
That
do? Are you going to
that's
close dinners or see what
that's the
happens,
decision.
or what do you?
That's the decision we're making right now, and the writing's on the wall. You can see it because what's going on is there's a great, incentive for the Victorian state government now to push this outdoor dining um, movement in hospitality. So we may, look at just being open summer for a few nights of the week, 4 to 5 nights of the week.
Yeah.
People aren't going out as much. We've noticed that with the introduction of Uber the last 3 to 4 years, people are content to stay home and order in. And now Providore's taking it to another level where I can have a fine dine restaurant at home and not go out. So, so there's the other aspect as well, that people may not go out as much. They like to entertain at home because we all, depends on your age group. Entertaining at home could be, the next thing. That's where we're
Mm.
doing that already. So that's why these are the conversations we're going to have coming out of this lighter. Like I said before, we're going to probably only open breakfast, lunch in our venue in the suburb, but at the same time, that'll be a lighter load to have to carry as opposed to open so many hours of the day and to try and just still make profit and drag your feet when when the landscapes change so much, and the customer behaviours have changed so much as well. We're becoming lazier and lazier. It's ridiculous.
Dear, oh dear. Are you still glad, Christo, that you're in hospitality? Are you glad that you own restaurants?
Yes, I'm proud. I'm proud of what I've created and what I've done. Unfortunately, it's becoming like there's so much competition there that you are forgotten after a while. Not we do know the champions of our industry, and those legacies that they leave are still amazing, and it always resonates for the true bloodlines of those that open businesses. But people just see it as just another business, and if it's gone, it's gone, and all the heartache that goes behind it, um, is sort of forgotten, and people are looking at the next thing. It's quite a fickle environment now. It's becoming less and less sort of a, no, I wouldn't say pleasure. It's not. You're not sort of known. Okay, you're a restaurant owner. It's not as a high accoladed, you know, thing
Mm.
to do anymore, because it's become more and more cutthroat, and the business elements it takes over the passion. I think, unfortunately, and it's becoming more and more of a numbers game, and it's a scalable thing. So if you've got a bigger type venue, you need bigger turnover, and a lot of the restaurant groups now are taking over, and retail or the franchisable type businesses are the thing that sort of makes more of a business sense. So people tend to go towards and gravitate towards those, both to own or to visit. So they pay the higher rents. The rents are high. The cost to do business is such a big thing that is it worth it? All that blood, sweat, and tears for such little reward. If you don't get it right, you're out within a year. If you do get it right, you still get it. You still got to chug through all the challenges. So it's really tough to sort of say, you like still being in hospitality. I do love it, but of course, it is a young man's game. But at the same time, it's also an amazingly rewarding, financially and also personally, a rewarding industry, because you're all about team and people. You're leading groups of people, and you become a community hub and a community staple, and people trust you and depend on you. So it's quite a big thing to do. Not everyone's
Yeah.
got that in them to be able to hold and to have that resistance to stress, and have that resistance to to be able to the business pressures as well, as well as the personal confrontation that people, where's my coffee, or my latte's cold. Well, it's true. It's a
Well,
very stressful
yeah,
situation to be in. A lot of people aren't catered for it. It's very hard, very hard. Well, I found,
yeah,
there's a hair in my soup. It's very tough, but it doesn't sound as
yeah,
depressing as what I'm sort of putting it out. It's just another game. It's hospitality is another industry that's just as tough as building. It's all about margins at the end of the day, whether in hospitality or you're a painter or you're an artist. There's a lot of moving parts. The only thing with hospitality, so that's why it's a very tough game. You've got to be really tough to be
yeah.
able to handle it. Very tough.
Well, it's yeah, look, there are so many aspects to it, and of course nobody plans for a pandemic. It certainly turned all
Mm,
those stresses up, turned those levers, and yeah, made it a very difficult machine to keep ticking over. But I
absolutely.
think when you speak about it like that, I think about sitting at the bar at Ripponlea Food and Wine, and you getting excited about whatever the new cocktail is on the menu, or that wine that's just come in, and
Yep.
making me a drink or pouring me a glass of something. And I
Yep.
feel like, I mean, at least from the customer side, all that stuff melts away, and there is something else that's going on that isn't about the margins, and it's not about the bottom line, and it
No.
is about creating that magic and that human connection, and that space
Yeah.
where things can happen, and people can be but can be more than who they are, and you can have those really magical moments that we're missing so much at the moment. So
Absolutely, and that's the reward that you get. That's the immediate reward that you get, because we're entertaining you. We're entertaining. That's what we're doing. Like, the food and the drink, and it's a combination, and the music and the cleanliness of the venue, or the bathrooms, or the decor, and the fit out, and just that
yeah,
feel and that ambience, and the people that are around you that you don't even know. That's the hum, and that
yeah,
is the human interaction that makes Melbourne Melbourne. And that's why we love it so much. And that's why we're such a sophisticated society here. We're above and beyond hundreds of cities in the world. And that's why people love coming here. And that's why we love, and we're actually quite proud. We're very proud of what we produce here. And I'm one
mm,
of thousands of, restaurateurs and cafe owners and bar owners and pub owners and groups that, are offering entertainment. That's what makes Melbourne so rich. You got so many entertain. We're on stage, and that's what that human element, that interaction, that beautiful reward, immediate reward. Particularly if you love serving people, we are your servant, and we're at your beck and call. And you know, some people are easier pleased than others, but that's what brings us back to that element of hospitality, and we cannot never forget that, and it resonates in the food, that the chef or the owners, are happy to produce, and that drink that cocktail barman makes, you can see the love, and
Mm.
that's what it's about. You're right. It's the magic that's there that keeps it alive, and those shops that do it well, that magic keeps resonating, and it keeps people coming back, and that's what makes them a beautiful business. And we all strive to do that, and that's what that's part of the game, isn't it?
Well, I think it's, everything that you speak to is, and how special Melbourne is one reason that it's hurting us so much that we can't create
Yeah,
those experiences for one another. But it is also a
yeah,
reason why I believe that we are going to come back, and there is going to be, um, you know, those that there is going to be that feeling that we can access, whether it's because you own the business or work in the business, or because you're visiting the business. And I think what
yeah.
I'm hearing from you as a diner is that I need to really show how much I appreciate the erstwhile simple act of being allowed to go to a restaurant. It is actually, it's such a special
It's
privilege,
a
and
privilege.
no
That's
one's going to
right,
take it
isn't?
for no one's going to take
No,
it for granted.
you're right.
Christo, it's such a pleasure to have you
Thanks.
on the podcast and get
Oh,
your
Dani,
perspective. I think
it's been a pleasure, and reading your articles and listening to some of your podcasts it's actually a pleasure to be part of it, and at least I can contribute something, and I look forward to serving when we reopen, yourself and others, of course, but at the same time, hoping that everyone else sort of can do the same and find that love. And when we reopen, it will be good. Hopefully, the weather's always kind to us. It's always nice to be out on a nice day, but I'm actually
yeah.
nice to. I feel nice just being able to just explain some of the ins and outs of behind the scenes for me personally, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak about it.
Well, thank you. I know a lot of people are going to get a lot out of it. So thanks for being so generous with your thoughts and your
Thank
time.
you.
And I'll
My pleasure.
see you at Ripponlea Food and Wine for a drink before too
See
long.
you soon. Thank you
Thanks,
so much,
Christo.
Dani. My pleasure.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.